Hello everyone, Max here with Fiction Rant to bring you another rant. Shocker, I know. I'll do this one as a top 5 since they help me stay organized, so here you go, my top 5 reasons why I love fiction, mostly fantasy and sci-fi. Number 1, world building. Let's face it, a lot of the time the real world kinda sucks, or gets boring. I know that if you keep digging into things, the real world stays interesting forever, but there's something about a world which plays by a completely different set of rules, be that magic, aliens, or advanced technology. It just adds some spice to stories, sometimes literally. There's also the fact that I live in the real world, and a bit of escapism is really great. I personally also have an engineering background, so my favorite fiction always involves taking relatively simple but fictional concepts and exploring how the world changes because of their existence. There's levels, of course. The Harry Potter series plays pretty fast and loose with their own rules, but the existence of magic absolutely affects every aspect of life for those in the wizarding world, for better or for worse. Meanwhile, the author Brandon Sanderson takes the complete opposite approach, preferring to go deeper rather than wider with the powers in his stories, and all of them have rules which affect the worlds they exist in dramatically. And one of the things that's cool about that for me is that a lot of the twists that he'll introduce later on in his stories, you could have predicted the twist if you just thought through the power set, but when it does finally happen, they combine the powers in some interesting way or whatever, it's either a, ha, yeah, I totally saw that coming, or, oh, neat, of course you can do that. And that's really cool to me. I find that all this world building is super duper interesting, and it's this element in particular that has led to multiple of the versus matchups that are on this channel. They're just fun to me. Number 2, simplicity. With absolutely zero exceptions, no matter how thorough, no author is as thorough with their world building as reality is. The fact is, reality is really complicated. This means that any nonfiction you read is immediately filtered through the lens of the writer and ultimately becomes a bit fictional in the process. Just look at perceptions of Christopher Columbus over the years. When I was growing up, it was all this heroic story of how in 1492 Columbus sailed the ocean blue and discovered the New World, kicking off a ton of colonization and eventually leading to the establishment of the most powerful country in the world. Hoorah! More recently, it's been more like, in 1492, Columbus sailed to the New World, was dumb and thought he'd gotten to India and thus permanently mislabeled the locals as Indians, then proceeded to kick off a string of events that led to slavery and genocide. Both are true, but boy do they leave a lot out in terms of context. Fiction, on the other hand, has the advantage of only being as complicated as either one or a handful of writers can really make it, allowing the crystallization of events and motivations down to just the most important events, and as a consequence, making it way easier to tell what's going on without needing a degree or 2, or 3, or more. 3. Authenticity. Paradoxically, I find that in a lot of cases, fiction is more real than reality. Look at any biography and you'll notice that trains of thoughts are totally omitted because the writer doesn't live in the head of their subject. Look at most autobiographies, and you'll either get a sugar-coated version of events to paint the author in the best possible light, or at least excuse bad behavior, or you get this self-flagellating atonement description of thoughts and events that, while powerful, is also generally still at least a bit dishonest because it's not like the author is writing their own autobiography while they're doing things that they're writing about. Contrast all that with fiction where the author can be omniscient and thus explain things that are going on that wouldn't otherwise be obvious, including thought processes. Just look at parables and fables. None of those literally happened, but they do such a great job of illustrating a point or explaining something about how the world works that they're immortal. Number 4, escapism. It's true, real life is stressful, shocker. And it's really complicated, shocker again. So sometimes it's a lot of fun, and I would argue even healthy, to just disconnect from everything and plug into a favorite book, movie, or video game. Games are particularly great at this for me because you not only get to engage with a make-believe world, but you also get to take on the role of somebody directly interacting with that world who's way better at basically everything than you are. Try as I might, I will never be Master Chief or Doom Guy. They can do all sorts of things I can't, like run for hours without getting tired or respawn after getting killed, all sorts of wonderful things. And yeah, there's just something about being able to get into a world, even if you're not the hero yourself, that just really helps you to recenter and just enjoy life more in general. Finally, number 5, fun! When it comes down to it, the world in question can be super down-to-earth and hardcore when it comes to established lore or rules, or it can be off-the-walls insane, but if I have a good time, I don't really care either way. Terry Pratchett with his Discworld series is a great example of total insanity committed to the page, and I am here for it. On the opposite side of the spectrum, Andy Weir's The Martian is about as realistic as it's possible to get given the setting being on, Mars. And it's still a great ride, despite very little in the way of plot contrivance or, magic. There's no real, we made something up in order for this to work, aside from the storm inciting incident. You can look into interviews with astronauts or whatever, and it's like, yeah, the whole thing is pretty solid, except for the storm that gets the hero injured in the first place, because Martian storms just don't have that much energy in them. In any case, basically, fiction is fun. And for me at least, if it's fun enough, I'm willing to ignore plenty of plot contrivance, non-realism, and even campy acting. Incidentally, for anyone wanting to watch the pinnacle of 80s action movies, but not made in the 80s, watch Kung Fury. It is the perfect blend of over-the-top action, absurd plot elements, and hammed-up acting, and it's free on YouTube. They hack time at some point, because Hacker Man has superpowers, and you can hack literally anything, according to 80s logic. So yeah, they hack time. Yeah, it's amazing, and it's a true love letter to the genre. I highly recommend checking out Kung Fury. Do it. It's like 45 minutes long. And there's my list. Let me know in the comments why you love fiction as well, and until next time, live long and prosper, and may the Force be with you.